I think it's easy to encourage people that we like, but I think it's easy to encourage people that are lovely, but sometimes it is not so easy to encourage people that are not lovely. Encouragement will also relationally go out of its way. Now, what I need to do to prove this is to kind of take a step back from chapter 11 and go back to chapter 9. In chapter 9, something special was happening and taking place. It was the time when Paul became converted to Christianity. For those of you who don't know, maybe you're just kind of following for the first time here, you're new to the Christianity thing. Paul was originally the one that began to persecute all the Christians. He threw them in jail. Many, I don't know how many actually died as a result of his vigor to go against the faith. And God supernaturally brings him to God. So in chapter 9, he escapes from Damascus. He ends up going into different areas, and he goes to Jerusalem, and he wants to meet with the disciples. And the apostles. And the apostles don't want to meet with him. Well, why is that? Well, they didn't believe him. They thought it was probably a ploy. They thought he was perhaps working undercover. This was just kind of something that he could get into the inner circles and then all of a sudden expose things. Here's the other thing. I'm not too sure if they really liked Paul. This is a guy who had done a lot of things against him, said a lot of things against them. And so the situation may have been not just the fact that they didn't believe or trust him. The fact is, they didn't really like this guy too much. But it took Barnabas. It says in Acts chapter 9, verse 27, that it was Barnabas who all of a sudden put his relationship on the line with the apostles and his relationship with Paul on the line to say, listen, you two need to come together. Something has to be done. And that's what leads me to something I think is special. I think that there's a grace component to encouragement. I think it's easy to encourage people that we like. But I think it's easy to encourage people that are lovely, but sometimes it is not so easy to encourage people that are not lovely. But Scripture kind of goes out of its way to talk about the fact that God needs to move in all of our lives. You know the funny thing about this whole relationship aspect of things? A few chapters later, Barnabas puts his relationship on the line for his nephew, John Mark. He kind of messed up in the first missionary journey, and they're about to go on the second missionary journey, and he says, you know what? We need to take him again. And the person who has no grace, the person who doesn't want to bring him along, is Paul. Now, Paul was the one in chapter 9 where he says, hey, listen, I'm going to vouch for this guy. Paul, he's good. And then all of a sudden, he said, I'm going to vouch for my nephew, John Mark. We got to take him. And John Mark, the first missionary team, is wiped out because Barnabas refuses to give up on John Mark, who messed up, essentially. And I'm glad he didn't. Because if you take a look at the life of John Mark, the very first gospel that is written is the book of John. And the person that brought John Mark along was that of Peter. He became Peter's right-hand man, and eventually after Peter died, he became Paul's right-hand man. If you take a look at, I'm trying to think, I think it was Eusebius, the church historian, who said, Mark went on after to Alexandria. He became its first bishop. See, I think there's a grace aspect to encouragement. You ever hear that verse? Well, you made your bed, lie in it. I don't know if I like that saying, because if I think about my life, if that was applied to me, then things wouldn't be good. Probably wouldn't be good for you either. We need grace. We need to encourage people who we like. We need to encourage people who we have a hard time encouraging as well.